LinkedIn Pro, that sort of thing, really. So more advanced
Okay.
sort of stuff.
What about you, Saurabh?
Okay, I'll go in next. Yeah, so my name is Saurabh Kumbhari, and I'm actually a PO and an ABAP consultant. I have around 7 years of experience, but the past few years have been, I'm out of touch from ABAP. I mean, last 1 year or so, I've again started working on ABAP. So I have got all the basics, but I'm looking forward to a bit advanced stuff. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah.
Karthik Kaveri Selvan. I'm a pure PI consultant and recently started working on ABAP for the last few months. What I'm looking for is intermediate stuff to the advanced stuff. Focus more on the intermediate to advanced.
Okay. Yeah. So great. So on this note, let's get started. Please request all of you to mute your lines. And in case if you have any questions, you can unmute and ask. So there's little phone symbol just next to your name in the GoToMeeting panel. You can click on that. It will mute your line. And in case if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me in the middle. You can also type the questions in the chat box. Yeah. So let's get started. My name is Anubhav. I have total 15 plus years of experience in ABAP, Oops ABAP, WebDean Pro, BRF Plus, Floor Plan Manager, and recently last 4 years I'm working on UI5 and Fiori technology as a backend as OData in NetWeaver Gateway, plus a little bit of experience in HANA Cloud Platform, developing the different styles of applications, including Java-based applications using JPA, Java Persistency APIs to store the data in cloud purely. And on the front-end side, the Fiori-based applications. I also worked on HANA Access, the HANA Extended Server, which is a lightweight application server along with the HANA database provided by SAP. So vast experience mainly in the technical parts, not a good experience in functional. And last job which I left with IBM was at a level of architect, and then I left that job and decided to become a freelancer and move into the completely training-based approach of giving training assignments to corporates and non-corporates, especially also online. So that's a brief about myself. Let's get started on that note. An introduction of ABAP. So as I have already got to know about this assignment that you all already have some level of ABAP experience, but not too much. So as part of this course, the main idea will be to understand Oops ABAP concepts, smart forms, Adobe forms, and also the reporting as well as dialogue programming in this course. So in total we'll take around 35 to 40 hours, depends on also the topics. What you would wish me to cover and how much time you take according to your speed. So before we even start, let's get started initially with the architecture of SAP system. So what is the architecture of SAP system? So it's also known as 3-tier architecture. So we have basically 3 layers in this SAP system. So first comes is your presentation layer, which is nothing but also known as SAP GUI, through which SAP, any user, whether it's a technical user or a functional user, connects to SAP system. That's called presentation layer. We call it as SAP GUI. So you see a little nice software installed in all our systems. It's called SAP GUI to connect to SAP systems. And what exactly SAP system is about is a application layer. So it's basically application server. Okay, that's what an SAP system is all about. Now this application server is also known as basis, or it is also known as middleware, or it is also known as NetWeaver. So NetWeaver is more in nature technical, which provides the support for all the applications. So typically an SAP server is a collection of functional functionality plus technicality. So when it talks about functionality, you will see different SAP modules. So the second part is technicality. Different functional modules like PP, FICO, APO, yeah, production planning, materials management, warehouse management, plant maintenance. All these are functionality. Technicality means programming. It provides support for technical features like function modules, like subroutines, reports, dialog programs. That is technicality. So NetWeaver itself is your technical platform. So NetWeaver is your technical platform for all SAP applications. So technicality means NetWeaver in the basis layer. So this is also known as middleware. Why? Because it sits between presentation and another layer called database layer. So we have the third layer called DB layer. Between these it sits. So this is your database layer. So what database layer contains? It contains all the data artifacts. So the beauty of SAP system is you can connect any database with SAP application server. Okay, so it can be Oracle, it can be DB2 by IBM, it can be MaxDB, it can be any database, it can be HANA-DB, any database you can connect to this system. So they have broken down into three pieces: presentation, which it takes input output from the user. So user never sees this application layer. User always talks to presentation layer, and whatever calculation, whatever processing happens, it all happens in the application layer. Now what's there inside the application layer? Typically we have something called a dispatcher. We call it as dispatcher. It's called dispatcher. So this dispatcher, what it does, it is responsible for receiving actually the request coming from presentation layer. So any request which comes, let's say you click on enter button, a request is sent from the presentation layer to the application layer. Now there's a dispatcher. This dispatcher receives the request and queues up. Okay, so I'll take an example. Suppose you want to book a train ticket. So you probably approach a railway station. Okay, in the old days you approach railway station and then you see there are already people waiting in a queue to book their tickets. Why? Because there is just one counter from where you can receive the ticket and pay the money. So when the number of requests coming to the application layer increases, what it does, dispatcher queues up those requests. Just like you stand in a queue when there are more people trying to book the ticket. Similarly, dispatcher job is to queue up the request coming from the presentation layer. Okay, so multiple users can also work together with this SAP system, and dispatcher is responsible for queuing up the request as well as dispatching them further to actual processing. And actual processing is actually done by something called a work process, WP. Okay, actual processing is done by work process in an SAP system. So there are different types of work processes to actually deal with different types of requests coming. For an example, there is a request come for screen change. So I click on a button and it should change the screen. So the dialog work process is the work process which is responsible for changing the screen. So there are 5 types of work processes in an SAP system. First is called dialog. This is responsible for screen sequencing. Going from one screen to the next screen will be done by dialog work process. Second comes is the update work process. So going forward, I will also teach you the concept of logical unit of work in SAP, LUW. What it does, whenever you want to update a data in the backend system, in the database, you cannot update all the data in, chunk by chunk. If you do that, in the middle, if your transaction crashes, your database becomes inconsistent. Okay, suppose I'll take an example. You are using MM01, very known transaction, MM01 to create a material. So first screen is material overview. Okay, second screen comes is your plant data for material. Plant data. So what happened is on the first screen, when you click on next screen, go to next screen. So it navigates to the next screen. Now, if at all on the first screen itself, you fire an insert statement to database. You say insert the record of this material into my database. What happens? if this record gets inserted immediately, your material master data, your material master table, which is nothing but Mara table has got a record. But when you reach to the second screen, something goes wrong. System gets disconnected. Okay, there is a system crash. Now what happened in this case? Your data in the Mara table got updated, but data in the plant table could not update. So you have a mismatch now. So you have a data in Mara table, but Marcy table you don't have the data. So the idea is you club all the request, you make a packet of the request, make the packet of all the statements and push them one shot. So either the whole packet gets updated or nothing gets updated. This is called atomicity of a transaction. Atomicity means the one transaction, only two possible outcomes, whether it is completely successful or it will not be successful at all. So all this is managed by update work process. We'll discuss about update task when we will go to the real chapter. So we'll create update work process modules, and using that we utilize the concept of logical unit of work. So we use commit work statement to finally update all the packet in one shot to the database. Then comes the background processing. This is mainly used for jobs. So you can also create an ABAP program and you can schedule it. Imagine how your salary gets credited to your account at the end, last working day of the month, night 12 o'clock. How it happens? There's no user sitting and doing it. It's a batch report which runs and sends the salaries from the employer's account to the employee's account automatically. And it is scheduled. It's a scheduled job. It's a scheduled program which runs on a certain period. That period is last working day, night 12 o'clock. Yeah, that's what is done by managed by background work process. Also, SAP is about large volume of data. It's an enterprise software. So you have large volume of data. So sometimes if you want to process large volume of data, you have two options. One, you do parallelization of data. So you do parallel processing, but sometimes it is not feasible to do parallel processing because of dependency of data between one another. Okay, so you use background process, which updates the data in the batch in the background. It doesn't need any dialogue to process the data. Okay, that's called background work process. Next comes is the NQ work process. This manages locking mechanism in SAP system. So as you can see here, there can be multiple users working with the same application. So it may be possible that one user is editing a purchase order. At the same time, another user should not be allowed to edit this purchase order, right? So there has to be a lock which you need to maintain in the application so that another user, when they try to edit the data which is being edited by first user, it stops. So this is managed by NQ work process. We'll see NQ and DQ functions, how to manage locks on the database tables and how to reflect this to the user. Locking concept of SAP, we'll see this going forward in upcoming chapters. So dialog, update, background, NQ and spool. This manages all the printing requests coming from SAP system. Spool work process. So these are all the 5 work process. Very important interview question as well. What are all the 5 work processes in SAP basis system? Dialog, update, background, NQ and spool. Dialog manages screen sequencing. Update manages batch updates, logical unit of work. Background manages all the batch updates, batch processing, large volume of data in the background or scheduled jobs. NQ manages the locking concept and spool manages all the printing requests coming from SAP system. So these are all the 5 work processes we have in an SAP system. Apart from that, we have 3 major services which are also part of this server. It's called ICF, Internet Communication, ICM, Internet Communication Manager. So you see these days there are a lot of web-based technologies. Software is no more being consumed in a backend system. It's being consumed more by the browser, like we saw about WebDyn Pro. So WebDyn Pro is one of the technology which is web-based technology by SAP. So your application runs in the web browser. How it supports? Because when you run something on the web browser, the request which comes to your system is a HTTP request. So it follows an HTTP protocol, hypertext transmission protocol. So these requests are managed by ICM, Internet Communication Manager. All the HTTP requests will be managed by that. Second service what we have is gateway service. So gateway manages all the communication with non-SAP systems also. And also it provides a support for REST-based services like OData service. So you must have heard about this concept of OData. It's a open data protocol. It's a new way of exposing your internal SAP data to an enterprise application running in the browser. So you can expose your enterprise data through the REST-based OData service. Okay. So that is what is a gateway service does. It exposes your data through the OData service to the outer world. We'll not have much of use these. We will not be using these these things in detail. This is just for your knowledge. I'm telling you that so that we can connect later point of time when an example is written, we can connect these things. Yes, see, this is how NQ work process is working. This is what is managing lock. So all these things we will see when we will go into the practicals. Actually, this is all theory, basics of SAP systems, which we all should know, okay, as a basic knowledge. So I am sure that you must be knowing some of these things, but may not be so much in depth. Okay, so let's get started and we'll write our first ABAP program in SAP system. So what are all the golden rules to write an SAP program? So golden rules are every ABAP statement ends with a period. Okay, every ABAP statement ends with a period. In order to read the data from database, we need to create a temporary storage in application layer. So many times you always deal with data. You don't use a ABAP program to say hello world. You basically need to write this program for enterprise applications. So there is a lot of communication which you need to connect to your data, and the data resides in your database layer. So when this data needs to be retrieved, you need to create some memory space, some local memory space into your application server. And that's what we call internal tables or work areas. So if you are bringing large volume of data into application layer, multiple records. So if you want to bring multiple records, you get internal tables. Multiple records. You get multiple records. Internal table is what you use as your data containers, as your data storage. If you want to get single record, you use something called work area. Also, it is called field strings. Okay, any name you can give. You can also name it as structure. Okay, so in order to learn ABAP, the first thing what we will be starting, guys, will be data dictionary concepts. So data dictionary is nothing but a remote control of your database, which manages all the database objects like tables, views, lock objects, data elements, domains. Everything will be managed by data dictionary. It's a remote control of your database. What will be created into database, that's all you manage by data dictionary. So it's basically schema of your database. Data dictionary is a schema of your database which helps you to manage all the database objects. So while writing an ABAP program, we can also create these internal tables, temporary space, temporary variables which hold the data using your data dictionary objects like a structure or a table type. You know, we will see all these DD concepts when we will start our course in detail. So now I will show you a basic example of reading data from ABAP system. From a database layer, pulling the data into application server, processing the data and printing this data into the presentation layer. That's what we will see an example. Can anybody tell me what is the table you guys use? Which table you've used functionally in your systems? Any table name which you have used in your project?
You can use VBRK.
VBRK. What is this table used for?
Sales order header.
I think it's not the right one. Sales order header is VBAK. VBAK.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. And then you have VBAP, which is the sales order items.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then you have
Gary's hitting me.
yeah. Then you have Mara table, okay, which is for materials. All the materials are stored in the Mara table. These are all the tables we'll use now, and quickly pull in some data from the database and see how this data can be pulled in, and we can display the records. Okay, so that's what we will do now, and a small example. So before we proceed, we need to also understand one very important aspect. What is that aspect? It's called database abstraction concept. Okay, what is database abstraction? Very important interview question also. Database abstraction. So what happens? Let's say you have an application layer, and this application layer, you write a program to read the data from your database layer. Okay, so you have a database over here, and let's say it's an Oracle database. Now, when you want to read the data from Oracle database from a database table, the syntax for doing that is, okay, again, I'm just taking an example, guys. Just understand it as an example. The syntax to read the data from Oracle database is select star from parenthesis database table name. Okay, this is the syntax to read the data from Oracle database. Now, when you use MySQL database, okay, when you use MySQL database, that's another different type of database. So suppose your company decides Oracle is very expensive, and it also has, we don't need it such a large scale of database. We don't need to spend so much on database. Our job is, we don't have large amount of data. We can also live with small open source database. So there's another open source database called MySQL. So you replace this Oracle with MySQL. Now what problem you getting into? The select query which you have written earlier will not work, because this select query was written to support Oracle database. So the moment you plug and play your database, you remove the old database and bring new database, now you have to change all your select queries. Okay, imagine the effort, imagine the problem, imagine all your program needs to go through under a change. Becomes a very big problem. So now you have to adapt all your select queries, select star from just DB table name. This is what you need to write. So earlier DB table name contained parentheses. You have to everywhere change all your programs which you have written the moment you change your DB. It's a big problem. How to solve this problem? To solve this problem, there is a concept called database abstraction. So by the way, the statements what you have written here are called native SQL statements. They are called native SQL statements. Why they are called native SQL statements? Because they are the statements corresponding to each database. Only Oracle will understand this statement. Okay, they are called native SQL statements. Native SQL statements. Only Oracle will understand this statement. Select star from DB table. MySQL won't. And only MySQL will understand this statement. Oracle won't. Okay, so these are called native SQL statements. So what we do is we don't use it. We use OpenSQL. OpenSQL is you write a select query, whatever select query you have, according to OpenSQL standards, and then you have a different, it's basically converter. You have a converter which checks which database the application layer is connected to, and it converts your statement from the select statement what you're writing to the database specific statement. So before sending to database, it actually converts the statement what you have written according to database. So you just need to install the right converter. You don't need to change every program. And this converter is called database abstraction. layer. It's a set of programs which are responsible for checking which database we are connected to, and accordingly it converts your select queries, your insert, update statements into MySQL or whatever database you are connected to. This way you don't have to change your programs. This concept is called database abstraction concept, and this is, you don't have to do it. It's done by application layer of SAP automatically. So you should learn only the OpenSQL. You don't need to learn every database language. You just learn OpenSQL statements, which I will show you what is the syntax and how to do it. And then your DB abstraction layer, tomorrow, even though you change your database from MySQL to Oracle again, it will still work. Your program, you don't have to change your programs. That's the beauty of one of the function of application layer. It has a database abstraction layer inside, which converts your SQL commands to the corresponding database commands automatically. Yeah. So that's why whatever queries you are writing, you'd never have to change. And now let me introduce the select query statement clause. So it is select, it is used to read the data. So these all comes under the category of DML commands. DML stands for data manipulation language. To update, read, insert, delete records from database, we use DML statements. In this, we have insert, update, delete, modify, and select statements as part of it. So right now, I just want to write a simple ABAP program as part of this demo to show you how can you read the data from a database table. So we just now saw the database table name, sales order header. So I will show you reading data for this sales order header table. Okay, we'll do that. So the select query syntax is, remember the syntax. If you remember the syntax, you can write any query. So my job will be to teach you syntax and show you examples. My job is not be biased with examples. So most of the trainers, why they cannot make you learn easily? Because they go by example. They will copy some example from some internet, some website, they paste it and they run it and they show the output. That way you will not learn anything. You just learn copy paste. But we will write every single line of statement at front of you. I will write every single line of statement at front of you, so you understand the meaning of every statement. Okay, so first we will write select column names. This is going to be your column names, what you want to select from the table. So table is a collection of columns and rows. So if I just write a sample table here, let's say this is my VBAC table. So it has sales order number. It has, let's say, distribution channel. It has sales organization. Let's say this much data it has. So sales order number 1, distribution channel 01, organization 001. Sales order number 2, distribution channel 001, organization 2. Sales order number 3, 01, 003. This is your data, sample data. Now 04, 0001. This is your data, let's say. So which columns you want to read? You want to read this column, this column, or this column. These column names you have to give here. If you want to read all the columns if you want to read, you give star. So either you can give star or you can give the column names separated by comma from your DB table name. So DB table name will be whatever is the name of the table you have. So here we have table name as VBAC. This is your table name. So this is your DB table name, what you're going to read. And then your column names are actually, these are all the column names. So let me just draw these columns over here. Come.
Hiya. Sorry, it's Gary here.
Yes, Gary.
Yeah, so I've got to leave this meeting now, I'm afraid. I've got to go to another one.
No problem.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. You've been
Goodbye.
very good. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So select the column names from database table, and you can additionally put a where clause. You want to filter the data, so you have to put where clause. If you have a special condition, I want to read the data of sales orders where sales organization is 001. So I can say my condition. So my condition becomes sales organization column contains 001. That becomes my condition. So this is a basic plain vanilla case of a select query to read the data. But if you remember, just now I told you, in order to read the data from database, we need to create temporary storage in application layer. Okay. That temporary storage, if you are reading multiple records, will be an internal table. If you are reading single record, it will be a work area. So if you are reading multiple records, okay, then what will happen? You have to create an internal table. So what is an internal table? Let's discuss what is an internal table. So internal table is nothing but it's a temporary table. This is the most powerful concept of ABAP. We'll have this concept in detail discussed in one of the unit, internal table. So internal table is a temporary storage of data in application layer, provided the data has multiple records. If you have multiple records of data, you can use internal table, guys. Multiple records of data, internal table you can use. Multiple records of data. See all these records of data done by internal table. We call it as internal table. Multiple records of data. So that's what we use, internal table. So what is the syntax to declare an internal table? So you say data. Data is a keyword, guys. Data is a keyword in ABAP to declare a variable. So I am assuming you all know C programming. So in our college days, we used to use int I. Int I means I want to create a variable of integer type and the name of the variable is going to be I. Similarly, you have data statement in ABAP. Data means I am creating a memory, I'm allocating a memory, and this memory will be allocated in my application layer. So here I will actually create some space. It will occupy some memory here in your application server. In this memory, we will pull the records and we will pull the records and we will keep those records in here in this. So what will happen? The records which you are pulling from DB will be kept in this memory. So this is your internal table, iTab. We call it as iTab. So all the records what you are fetching with your select query will come and sit inside this internal table. Okay. So that's how we create an internal table. So we say data. You need to also tell how this internal table looks like. Let's take an example. You are bringing new car to your home. You cannot keep the car in your kitchen. Similarly, you are getting fruits from the supermarket. You cannot keep the fruits in the garage because garage is meant for the car and fridge is what is meant for the fruits. Similarly, when you get the data from database, you need equal amount of storage. You need same structure so that the data can fit. So this internal table what you create, you need to create similar to your database table. So your database table name is VBAK, VBAK. So you mention data, my internal table name, type table of, it should be a type table of my table name VBAK. That's how you create a memory space which is a table because you mentioned type table of, similar to my VBAK table. Okay, so it will create a space for you here and this space is capable of holding the VBAK data, sales order header data. Okay, that's very important. Your structure has to match, otherwise your program will end up into errors. Similarly, when you bring a car to your home, if you put it in your kitchen, you will mess up your house, right? If you put your car into the kitchen, right? Similarly, if you bring the fruits, you cannot keep them in the garage. You have to put the fruits and the milk products into the fridge. So the structure has to match. That's what is important for us to understand. When we are creating a table, internal table, it should match with our data, incoming data structure. So incoming data structure name is VBAK. And we're saying it should be a table. It should be able to hold multiple records. Okay. Now in your select query, you have to also tell. So I copy the select query from here, come back here. In the select query, what you're doing, guys, You need to also tell which table. So you already told what data. You already told columns, what data. You already told from where. So this is what, this is where. But inside which object. So you have to say into table, internal table name, into table itab. What happens with this statement? System will read the data, pull the data, and keeps that data into this internal table. Okay, keeps the data in the internal table. So all these records will be read from database and will be stored in an internal table. Now to print these records, you cannot print the whole thing in one shot. Remember, very important, you can't print it in one shot. Just like you can't eat the whole pizza in one shot. You need to eat the pizza in slice by slice, bite by bite. Similarly, an internal table cannot be processed as a whole. You need to actually process record by record. Okay? You need to process the internal table record by record. Okay? Record by record, you need to process the internal table. So that's what exactly happens now. You need to process this internal table record by record. Okay? Record by record, you need to process. So let me copy and just flip like this. Record by record. We need to start a loop, guys, on our table. So we'll say loop over these records one by one. So first loop pass, it reads the first record. Second loop pass, it will read the second record. Third loop pass, it will read the third record. Fourth loop pass, it read the fourth record. So this also we need to do. To print this data on the screen, we need to loop over these records one after another. And then we will print it. So we use a statement in ABAP called loop at itab. Loop at itab, end loop. This is what we do after we get the records. So this statement declares an internal table, temporary storage. This statement brings the record from the database and keeps it in your temporary storage. And this statement will loop through the records one by one into a work area. So we have to loop record one by one. So this work area should be a similar line of your table. It's a single record actually. You are looping now. So one by one record you are looping. So you should get it in a work area. And now inside this you process the work area. So you use write statement in ABAP to print the value. So the work area hyphen, you can put the name of your field, database table name field. So we had sales order number. This is your field name. This is your column name. So put sales order number and print the sales order number. Actually, in actual database table, this column name is VBELN. Sales order number is VBELN. So now this is a small ABAP program, end to end. What it does, what every statement is doing. Creating an internal table, getting the data into internal table, looping the data and printing the data. So loop means every record will be processed one after another. We'll see more complex operations going forward. So let's write this and check it out if it works in ABAP. So we go to SAP system. This is an SAP system. And can anybody tell me transaction code to check out a report? Check out a program in ABAP? Anybody? What is
SE38.
the SE38? Very good. Can you tell me what SE stands for? Anybody? What SE stands for?
German for abbreviation for.
No. Great. So SE stands for system engineering. Okay, SE, system engineering. You have some transactions like SM. SM stands for system maintenance. You have transactions like ST. ST stands for system tools, like ST05 for SQL trace you use. This is a tool to check the performance of your program. Okay. ST22 to analyze the dumps. If somebody reports an issue, okay, somebody reports an issue that my program is not working. This is where you can go and check with their user ID, is there any dump in the system? If yes, which programming statement is giving that dump? You get the complete call stack. We'll see extensive debugging during our classes, how to debug a program end to end. Because typically a software is designed layer by layer. You have a UI, below that you have an API layer, which is consists of lots of classes into it, talking, coordinating with each other. Then you have a DB layer, DB classes. Intermediate also, there are lots of classes. So when you debug, you somehow kind of get lost, you know, because it's going inside, then inside, then inside, then inside, and then inside. So how to do an effective debugging, how to understand layers of software, that's all you will gain at the end of this course. When we'll start with the basics, and then we'll get into the layers. OOPS ABAP, very critical, very important, because everything is written in terms of OOPS. So let's go to SE38, System Engineering Program. Oops, it got disconnected. Let me reconnect once again to the server. Just hold on, please. Yeah, there you go. So I just connect once again. What is the password? I forgot. 1 second. Let me check the password, guys. 1 second. I just missed the password, guys. Is this server I just arranged for this demo? Typically these days I don't work with the ABAP systems. So let me
Okay, no problem.
I have just got the password. 1 sec. Let me check.
That's okay, Anubhav. I think this was good enough. So we are, sort of time too. So let's
just 2 minutes, guys.
practical.
We will just give a close to it. Just 2 minutes, please. So whatever we started, we should finish a basic ABAP program. Very important. Let's do it. I've got the passwords now. So let me just connect. I got it, guys. Yeah, there you go. So it connects SE38. And there you go. We write our first program. Any program name which you write should start with Y or Z. Anybody? Y or Z only. Why it won't allow you to write a program with any other name? Anybody? Can you explain?
Sorry, can you please repeat?
Any program which you write should start with Y or Z. Any program what you write. Why?
The other names are reserved for the standard program.
Very good answer. If you type a program name which doesn't start with Y or Z, a system won't allow you to create it. See, it asks an access key. Why? Because they are reserved namespace for standard SAP programs. So SAP delivers software to you. So all the names which you see not starting with Y and Z are SAP programs. They are standard programs. So you are allowed to only do development and change the programs which starts with Y or Z. So say Z demo sample 1. I'm writing this sample 1. Create. We create our first program. We'll also understand in depth how these programs gets executed. So in a ABAP system, there's something called driver program which executes these programs. It's not a magic which executes a program. It's the SAP basis functionality which executes a program. So ABAP demo, and we select the type as executable. So there are different types here. We will also understand these different types. What are all these different types of programs? Right now, just choose executable program and save it in the local object. We'll also talk about transports, how to save your objects in a productive package and transport it to the quality system. We'll also talk about landscape, development, quality, and production. So let's create our first program. So data. So as we already know, to create a variable, we use data. ITab, internal table, type table of VBAC. VBAC is my sales order header table. Now I say select star from VBAC table into table ITab. So we are selecting all the records from the database table and pulling them into the internal table. Now we'll loop at those records. So loop at ITab into work area. So let me declare this structure. So this structure is basically a record, a line similar to my table. So I say like line of ITab. We will understand the difference between type, like. Very important interview question. What is the difference between type and like? We need to understand it. When we'll go into the depth, we will understand. So now it loops through all the records in application layer and we print it work area hyphen VB. So now let's say you do not know the name of the field, name of the column. You can press control space and you see it shows you all the list of columns present in your table. So VBELN is for sales order number. Work area hyphen I want to also print VKORG, sales organization. Two values I want to print. Check the program, activate it. We'll understand what is the difference between activate and save. We will also understand this in detail. What happens when you save? What happens when you activate? Very important. There's a big difference between save. Save and activate, both are different. Let's execute it. And voila, you get all the sales order data from your VBAC table at front of you. All the records, you can see so many records are there. So it has got you the sales order data. Yeah. So that's a basic example of writing select query and getting the data into internal table and looping through the records in the internal table line by line and printing every line on the screen. So this is a very, very simple example of simple and straightforward. There's another variation of select clause. We will see all four variations going forward, but let me show you right away. Another variation, it's called select star from VBAC into work area directly and end select. This is actually a loop itself. So this statement is actually a loop itself. So in the first statement, you first pull all the data in one shot into an internal table. But in this statement, you are actually getting the data record by record from database. So it hits the database layer multiple times, as many number of records you have. That's why the performance of this is slower as compared to loop at ITAB, as compared to getting data into internal table in one shot. So this is better in performance. This one is not, because it gets you the record one by one from database layer. So let's print it. It still produces same result, but it takes more time. Right now you may not observe the time difference, but when it comes to large programs, it makes a big difference. These kinds of statements still produces the same data. So we'll understand the different types of queries. What are all their implications? Which is better for performance? When to use what? Because it's not just about writing the code. It's about writing the right code, writing the code which complies to standard, writing the code which doesn't gets you into the performance problems later point of time. You doesn't get more code review comments also. Writing the right code. Become a developer, not a coder. A coder never survives for a longer time. A developer survives. A developer has a mind to develop right things. Coder just code. So his job is just to code. He get a code from internet, he copy paste that code, runs it, output may come, but he will get into problems when it comes to maintenance. Remember, we should become a developer, and that's what we'll do. Try to strive it. So I will definitely start with very basics. We will start with data dictionary, then we'll talk about reporting. We'll talk about basic concepts of reporting. Then there are three types of reportings. Then we'll look into the module pool programming, screen programming. And then we'll discuss what is PBO, PAI, include programs, function modules, modularization concepts, function groups, and subroutines. We'll discuss about different internal table operations. We'll discuss about object-oriented ABAP. We'll discuss about OOPS concepts, factory design pattern. There are a lot of design patterns also. We'll discuss about them. And then we'll discuss about smart forms, Adobe form integration, bodies, BAPIs, RFCs, how to use all these concepts. So this is in a nutshell, overall course will contain. We'll have one more demo on Friday, which is a basics of dialogue programming I will discuss. Any questions from you? Anybody about this?
Anubhav, just one quick question. You like to have a quick word with the team and come up with a topic for Friday's discussion.
Sorry?
The Friday's demo, we like to have a discussion among ourselves and come up with a topic that we want you to cover.
Yeah, no problem.
So I will let you know what you said, and it would be great if you can touch base on that topic on Friday.
No problem. So just email me, because it's very difficult to talk over the phone. Very, very difficult. I don't have time at all to discuss over the call. please send me the email. I will try to cover the topic. One thing to be very straightforward, guys. I believe in transparency. So if there's something which I don't know, I will tell you upfront that I don't know. And if it is somehow in my control to learn, I will learn in no time and cover that topic for you. Okay. But I expect
Okay.
hard work from you. I will do hard work with you. You have to do hard work with me. That is very important. And if we together do hard work, we will have a great learning ahead. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Next thing, next important thing, we will never do copy paste of the code, whatever it takes. Whether it takes 10 hours, 12 hours to write it, but we will write every single line of code on our own. We never do copy paste, because if we are doing copy paste, we don't understand anything. We have to write line by line every single code. I will also share the training videos with